keep you on the phone for like 45 minutes. They think it's nothing. They don't, like you ain't got nothing else to do. Just sit around on the phone. There's nothing to tell you something. If I get on this, I gotta close the door and be, I don't know. This one's just about done. I'm not going to be able to. I don't know how long this is going to take.
I think they're just getting in. It's only 2:05. Not for me right now. I think we'll have time after we're done here.
He was there. He lived in there. David, get Sandy up there. Okay, Amy, what can you tell us about it?
David, are you there? Oh, we can't. Let me unmute. Press to unmute. So that's the only problem with so many people on it. It's difficult with it and unmute stuff. David, are you there? I see him. Hi, David. We just we're starting to review your project for the town of Niagara for the addition to the existing building. So the board is asking if you could please just give an overview of the project, and I'll bring up the site plan.
Oh, okay. Oh, never mind. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Is there a way to turn the volume up? This is new, right? This is
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Okay. The project's a very simple project. It's a production facility, primarily welding and CNC for metal. They wish to do a 50 by 50 addition to the existing building. It's a single-story pre-engineered metal building. The industrial site that it's on is fully developed already. It's already all paved. I don't know if anyone went out to try to look at it, but it's in a very concealed space, nestled amongst a bunch of other industrial buildings, so it certainly fits the context and fits the neighborhood. The client's ready to go. We did receive Town of Niagara Planning Board approval the other night, so we're just jumping to take care of this. If there's any questions, I guess I guess that's probably where I am with this.
Amy, this is just a site plan, no area
Well, I'm sorry. Trying to fix technical things up here.
This is just a site plan, no,
Yeah.
no variances before.
That's correct.
And parking requirements are still the same, it looks like you're not gonna put that many people in that building.
Correct, yeah, I mean, it's an existing, business, the Niagara Industrial Mechanical Services, they're just doing an addition. Obviously, we support manufacturing expansion. So it's, and the surface, is already fully covered, with impervious surface, so there's no really drainage issues expected.
What's your recommendation?
My recommendation would be, for approval in the properly zoned area.
I'll make a second on the motion. Okay, Mary Julie made the motion, we approve it.
Yes, I will.
Okay, motion by Mary Jo, seconded by Walt. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Got it.
And then, so just before we go on, I think, the project representative for 6719 is joined us, but I just want to confirm. Yen, are you on the line and can you hear us? Roseanne, can you hear us?
Hi, we're trying to connect in an airport here. So please bear
Can
with us 1 second because our phone connection's not that good.
I can't.
The connection's not
They
good.
up there now?
The connection second. Yeah, well, I think there's a
Hello, are
new
you there?
speaker thing, so it's
Hello?
like for us.
We're gonna try to phone in, hang on just 1 second, and we're
What do you,
gonna try to conference call in.
into the meeting?
So it goes through the speaker in the ceiling.
It won't give us feedback.
Have to shut that off.
Can I go out? Maybe. Hello, hi, this is Roseanne DePizio. Hello?
We're trying to fix some technical difficulties on our end, just to make the sound in our room a little bit better, because we're having a difficult time. I want to hear you. Can you hear us?
I hear her, they're trying to fix their end. I hear her, they're trying to fix their end.
Oh, they can hear you.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay, though?
Where, do you know where that is?
On the top center.
This unit right here is new. We didn't use this last meeting, and these little speakers are not cutting.
If you can move that up.
Can you hear us okay, Roseanne?
I can hear you.
Okay, that got better. So,
Tell her to increase the microphone.
well, I think I can hear.
How did you get it up?
How do I do that?
How'd you get it up?
I went to audio, video, speaker, microphone center.
Okay, this is on now. Let's try this. Ever talk.
I'll just read the record.
We're trying to reconnect right now with our telephone.
Okay, we can hear pretty good right now.
Did she hear us?
Hi.
Hi, Rosie.
Is that better?
Can hardly hear her.
Here, this one. Why don't we just I'd prefer you try that. And I'm gonna go up to here with this. I don't. Did you?
She's color 6. Skipper.
Okay, well, technical difficulties, and we're gonna go on to the next project, and then we'll come back. Hopefully, we'll be able to work each other more efficiently. Let's jump to.
Okay, 6722, now have a last one, site plan review. Word review, like. Steve, you there?
Are you looking?
Just asking.
Steve, you want time? Steve Moore?
Yep, I'm right here.
Perfect. Can you give us an overview of what your project is and what you're looking to do?
I'm sorry, I'm having a really hard time understanding anything that's going on in that where you're at there.
Can you give a brief overview of what you're looking to do for your project?
Yeah, okay, so I currently have a building that's a 40 by 60, and I'm putting another 40-foot addition on the back. Same height, same width, same color, everything's the same. It's just an addition with one more overhead door that'll be in it, just to give us more storage space and a little more to free up our workshop area.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We play with
Bring your gels.
air. Right. It's not showing anything. No, that's not it. Yeah, there. Let's try that. So you with 40 by 40 in the back of your building, is it going to be for repairs or just an extension of what you're currently doing at the site?
Well, could you say that one more time? I couldn't.
Sure. So you're looking to do the addition onto the back of the building. Are you looking to do the same type of work with like repairs, or what type of work will be done in the addition?
Well, more so, it's we don't do. Are you asking about painting?
I guess we're wondering what would be done in the
No. The same exact work we're doing. We just what has happened is over the years, some of the vehicles have become larger with the UTVs side by sides. In our current shop area, we just don't have enough room to have those inside and all the motorcycles and stuff that we work in. And having one of those in the shop pretty much jams up the whole shop because now those are becoming as large as some small cars. So we just need space and to be able to work more in the shop and have more of a staging area for the jobs that are, like in line to get worked on.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Okay. Okay. Back in here. Roseanne, can you connect okay?
So are we done? I can't hear what's going on there.
Yep, recommended approval of your project.
Okay, so I can hang out now?
You're all set. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, bye-bye.
Hi, everybody. This is Roseanne again.
I can't hear.
Hi, this is Roseanne again, 4660 Whitmer Road.
Okay. Can you hear me at least?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, so do you want me to? So 19 Town of Niagara site plan review, and the request is by 4660 Whitmer Road LLC for the planning board to review a site plan for the construction and operation of an industrial material manufacturing facility at 4660 Whitmer Road. The property is 12.5 acres and is zoned HI heavy industrial. So Roseanne, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk, and I will show the site plan we have, and all report has copies as well.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, if you could increase your volume, that would be great, but can hear.
I'm sorry, there is a terrible lag and echo. I didn't hear what you requested.
I can't do it. Sorry. Okay, Roseanne, try again.
Okay,
Can you hear us?
I can really only hear you.
Okay.
So I guess because the connection is so bad and it's very hard, it's going to be very difficult for me to put on a presentation. I guess my first question is, did everyone receive what was sent to them by the Town of Niagara?
Every board member received a complete application of all the documentation that the Town of Niagara submitted.
Okay, then I guess, would everybody like, is there any questions, I guess, instead of trying to just explain what's been submitted? I'm not sure if it's self-explanatory or if it's better just to take questions at this time, just due to the difficulty in trying to handle this meeting.
Well, first of all, what are you going to manufacture?
Asphalt, hot mix asphalt.
Just that?
Same thing as Lafarge.
Okay.
So, well, go ahead.
Okay, Walt, go ahead.
Roseanne, can you hear me from over there?
Very, very faint.
Here.
And I'm not sure who I'm speaking to, sorry.
That's okay. And then if the board members could just say their name before speaking, that would help too.
Roseanne, can you hear me from here?
Yes,
Okay, I have a series of questions for you. First of all, and I'm going to try to make it a logical route going from the beginning towards the end of your process. So right at the very beginning is, why do you need an easement to get onto the property?
that is because the landowner, and if it's between the landowner.
She's still there.
Property.
We lost you after you just started. Can you repeat?
Yes, I'm sorry. That was so that we could subdivide the property because we really don't need all 12.5 acres. And we were actually going to subdivide it, and the plant is closer to the front of the acreage, which is further away from the Niagara University. And when we first were talking with the landowner and making the deal, we just decided to get all 12.5 acres approved at this point. However, leaving us the ability to subdivide if necessary. So that's why the easement was placed there.
Okay, so bottom line is, the entranceway is owned by the other property and you need the easement to be allowed through.
Correct.
Okay, and at the entrance, you have a 25-foot wide road,
Correct.
two directions. Okay, on the process, I'll ask this question. Asphalt is usually made by mixing stones with tar, is that correct?
It's used by drying aggregate, different size aggregate, depending on the mix that you're going to make, and then adding a asphalt cement, which is a byproduct of a petroleum product.
Right. The aggregate is crushed stone of various sizes.
Crushed stone, crushed aggregate, crushed gravel, sorry, but yes, of varying sizes.
Will you be crushing stone either now or in the future?
No, all the stone will be processed. The most we would do there is, in order to become a more green facility, would be to screen existing millings that we would take in, which is asphalt that's been milled up from the roadways. Instead of wasting it like they used to do years ago, you bring it into the property, and the most we would do is screen it. But no, we would not be performing any crushing operations.
Does that screening require a shaker?
Most likely.
Okay. You'll be doing some ground movement to be able to put some of the more on the property, like your chimney, so you'll have ground movement?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat that one more time? It was coming in and out.
And will you be in producing the locations, the items that you're putting on the property, like the chimney, will you be moving soil?
No, no, the existing topography of that land is fine. No, it drains well.
You need to put footers in for your chimney?
Oh, I'm sure I shouldn't say that. We have to put footers in, but I won't be changing grade per se. It'll be going back the top of the footers to support basically the silos. Those would be the biggest footers, and the scale, which is not very deep, but those would have to be excavated in place, but it would be at the same grade. I mean, the grade elevation is at the elevation finished grade that all the equipment would be installed at.
You're also putting in roads. Are you doing anything special with the soils that are moved?
No, we're not. We don't plan in. We don't anticipate having to do anything special with the soil. I mean, most of it would go back. It's really not a lot that would be excavated out. Any excess soil, I would probably build berms along the perimeter, if acceptable, and put some more trees in, if necessary.
Might, hopefully I can keep talking loud enough so you can hear me. You might need to check with the DEC. You're only 200 feet away from the Hyde Park Bloody Run landfill and downwind from it. So you might have to check any soils moved for chlorbenzenes, chlorotoluenes, dioxin, and furan because of that neighborhood. Just to let you know ahead of time.
Yes, the DEC is aware of the foundations because they have the whole set of plans, and they had already issued the draft permit. I realize that they have pulled back their negative deck until this process is complete. At the time that we had submitted to the DEC, it was our understanding that the process was complete. So here we are with that, just due to the circumstances that arose. However, the DEC is fully aware of the foundations that will be necessary, and any foundation work would be with their approval and their inspections. And again, if we, if testing was required, we would do the testing. There's not going to be a lot of excess, if any. Usually, if there is any and testing is clean, we can dispose of it as necessary, let them know the final resting place. If it is questionable, they usually allow it to stay on site and use it for backfill for other purposes as long as it stays on the existing property. The DEC had not brought up any concerns whatsoever for putting in the foundations or any potential excess soils at this point.
Okay.
I don't anticipate a huge problem from it. I anticipate there'll be some logistics that we have to handle, but nothing major. I did get an environmental from the existing owner, before we had even approached him for this site, and then he had given us approval to go ahead and get the approvals. And it didn't appear that that was going to be a problem.
Okay, I'm going to move down the line of your production. You'll be moving stone. You'll be possibly shaking for sizes. What is your technology for dust control?
Well, dust control is really just fugitive dust control off of the piles of material. And that would be simply any spraying of water that would be, if necessary. There's a dust control that's been included in the whole package that was given to the DEC because that's one of their questions. That's mostly fugitive off of the raw materials necessary. Any emissions coming off of the drying and mixing component goes through the bag house, and it's all collected. Everything is collected into the bag house, and then you have to clean out the bag house as necessary depending on your production levels. And the fines get ducted back into any fines, dust, whatever you like to call it, gets ducted back into the drum and gets recirculated and remixed into the asphalt.
Your bag dust collection is going to be over which unit?
The dust collecting unit, the emissions collecting unit, is called the bag house, and it's at the end of the drum. So you've got the cold feed bins, you've got your main conveyor, everything gets dumped into the drums. You've got the hot mix asphalt behind it that's all self-contained, that gets loaded into the drum. The drum mixes everything. The asphalt goes to the left if you're looking at it, I guess, heading north, if you're facing north, the asphalt would go to the left onto what's called a drag slat, and off of the drum is ductwork that goes into what's called the bag house. That's where your 31-foot stack is that allows for the emissions to be emitted from the combustion.
So your stack is your major air emissions control technology.
Correct.
I'm going to move on a little bit. As your stone goes down the conveyor belts and you start mixing it with the tar, the petroleum tar, what is your process for heating the tars, pouring it, and mixing the tars?
That gets fed by a piping system. It's a hot oil system that keeps the AC. The AC comes in warm. It comes in a liquid form, and it comes in warm, and that gets put into the AC tank. It should be denoted as the AC tank on the production floor plan there. The AC tank remains warm, and there's a hot oil system there's a piping system that's piped directly, a closed system that's piped directly into the drum. That's a closed system. Once all the materials hit the drum, the whole process is a closed system. And the only point that it comes out is off the bag house, which is the 31-foot stack that allows for the emissions of the combustion.
So you have emissions of volatiles when you're mixing the tar. You have a heating unit shows on the map and a mixer. There's a point source there. There's point sources of evaporation as it goes up the conveyor belt. And there's also an emission point source associated with the tower for loading.
And let me clarify that. There are minor emission points, they're called fugitive emission points. Everything pretty much is contained into the bag house and then through the stack. The DEC and all the modeling that we have done and the emissions, because the drag slat, which is taking the completed asphalt product up to the silo and stores it into the silo, then it gets, the bottom of the silos open up, and that's how you load their truck. There are small emission points called fugitive emission points that we have done all the modeling for, that the DEC has. It's why they took 8 months to approve us. The DEC has gone through several questions, all of the intricate questions of our equipment, and has calculated all of those emissions points and determined that any of those will be within or below any standards necessary for the DEC so that they could have issued the draft permit. We have also offered to them that it is a part of the permitting process within, and don't hold me to the exact day, but once you start producing the asphalt, you've got so many days, and then you have to do what's called stack testing and any other testing, which in this permit, they required other tests. So we would have to perform all that testing to prove that the modeling, which proved that any emission standards that we were going to have to emit pursuant to this production was going to be below any threshold that the DEC deems to be approvable. That being said, if in fact the emissions were above because the modeling may have been erroneous, which we don't expect, however, we had already told them, we would then continue to duct in where the drum dumps into the drag slet. The drag slet is covered. There's only a small point where it dumps onto that conveyor. It's called a drag slet. Carries it up to the top of the silos. At the top of the silo, if we are admitting at that point, we were going to contain the whole thing with another ducted system, a complete cover, if you will. That cover was going to be piped, ducted back into the drum. So the emissions goes back into the combustion chamber, the drum, and you're collecting it all there. From there, it gets dumped into a truck. Once the clamshell closes again at the bottom of the silo, there's nothing else being admitted. Now, the truck, as they drive down the road, just like they do with Lafarge or any other asphalt plant, in fact, just like they do when they hook up to any paving machine, will emit the same emissions at that point. Once the material is produced and together, you have a lot less emissions than, actually you emit more from the back of a paver as you're paving roads, which are being done right in front of houses.
What, based on your models, how many tons of VOC emissions do you anticipate?
I don't have, I do apologize, I'm in the middle of an airport, I don't have those specific numbers. I do know that it's less than 100 tons per year, which is the allowable by the New York State DEC.
100 tons per year of VOCs?
100 tons total, from what I recall off the top of my head. I would imagine that the draft permit was submitted as a part, or I believe you have a copy of the draft permit. Do you know? I'm sorry, I'm on the phone and my computer's not working in the middle of this airport. So I'm at a little loss, but I would imagine that you had received the entire draft permit by the DEC.
Yes, and I do know based on some of my questions related to, I guess, that you didn't cover all of the various potential fugitive emission sources. So I'm just going to mention the VOCs will include, well, hydrogen sulfide is not a VOC, but there's hydrogen sulfide, but there's, in the volatile organic compounds, you're going to have sulfur mercaptans, and they're the smelly things. These are the things that people smell down to the Parker billion level. However, the more notorious and common vapors are going to include benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, and xylene, BTEX. So putting up 100 tons per year of things that, based on past analysis that I've seen, maybe 30 to 40% of the VOCs could be benzene. Benzene is a non-human carcinogen, which we're mentioning that it will be part of your planned 100 tons per year. That sounds serious.
Well, again, I'm sure everybody's aware of Lafarge's operation, and they actually produce more than what we would be permitted to produce. I think their permit allows up to maybe 250,000 ton or more, and I certainly can foil that and get a copy for you.
I'm only allowed to ask about this site plan. So,
Well, I apologize, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Can I finish, or I don't mean to interrupt. It's hard to speak when you can't see who's talking.
Oh, I moved on to another question. How tall is your stack?
31 feet. That should be also on the DEC permit.
I think I read that. Just as a reference, I was driving by the other day, the old stone chimney by the Moses Parkway. That's the same height. So that gives a little visual comparison. That's not true, Paul. I'm going to move on to one more additional item. What do you have for fire safety?
There really has, I mean, the only thing that can catch fire is if there's a fire in the drum, you simply shut off obviously everybody knows that fire needs some type of a catalyst and then it needs oxygen, and since it's a closed system primarily, you shut the fuel source off, which here would be propane, and we could also do natural gas. And there is, I mean, there's no potential for fire. It burns right out if there's any flames inside the drum.
You mean all of the tar that you're adding to make asphalt is coming from drums?
It comes from a tanker truck that is pumped into the drums, but pumped into the AC tank, which is a completely closed system, double insulated walls. Has no catalyst to it. I mean, the ignition point is so high, and there's nothing that can start it on until you're into the drum. And again, that is only fueled by either propane or natural gas, whichever a company chooses. Here we were choosing propane. And again, if there's ever a concern, you shut the source off and it burns out. There's nothing for it to continue.
So you have no storage of petroleum tars larger than the tanker truck and drums.
It's a 30,000 gallon AC tank.
Okay.
This is approximately one tanker truck.
How do you keep that tank molten?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. How do I keep the product warm in there?
You keep that tank elevated in temperature enough to be horrible.
It's a heated tank. There's a hot oil system with pipes that run around it so that it keeps it warm. And that's just pumped, and that's a closed system as well. That system also goes over to the silos to keep the material warm in the silos.
How do you keep the temperature from going too high?
There's gauging on all the systems. There is a total, there's a whole program that gets tied into everything. Everything's electronic. It comes into the master motor control center, which is inside the mixing station, where that is completely manned. And then they have high alarms on them. They have alarms on all of the different components for that. It gets brought back into anything that's a concern or anything that's alarmed, anything that goes above any levels that are set. Those set levels we can set also as our own parameters into the system, and that's all completely automated.
Okay, so you have automatic shutoffs.
Yes. On different components, yes. Different points within the processing system, yes.
I'm almost done. Is there any fire hydrants on the property?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I apologize. You're the first person that asked me that.
Stage any firefighting foam on the property?
Again, you cut out. I'm sorry. Did I stage any what?
Firefighting foam.
No. I don't believe any asphalt plant in all of New York State requires any firefighting foam. And there are many that are much closer to anything that we are in proximity to in all of New York State. It's not a requirement of the DEC, so, and it's not a concern across the state.
Okay. Based on what I said, guys, things that I'm a little bit concerned about that I don't see a lot of detail other than some verbal comments.
I'm sorry, I can't hear. I just heard things that you were a little concerned about, but I didn't hear anything after that.
I'm repeating them. I'm concerned about proper handling of soils that may be contaminated in the process, engineering controls on noise, because shaker and the belt make noise. By the way, you're only about 600 feet away from Niagara University dormitories, so they're not that far away. So attenuation by distance really doesn't do a whole lot. I'm concerned about,
Can I interrupt for 1 second there? I believe, I guess my question is 600 feet from the rear property line to their property line, 600 feet from the actual manufacturing equipment component to their closest building. I guess I would like a clarification on what you mean by 600 feet.
Your property line to the beginning of the Niagara University dormitory campus. And
The property line or the building itself? The buildings themselves?
you're close. I won't
I'm sorry,
argue.
say that again?
Close. There's other properties to the south as well. So I'm also concerned about crystalline silica dust, VOCs, benzene, fire safety, and I sent information because that type of a storage tank, the tires themselves are only categorized as combustible. However, the VOCs are highly flammable. And most of the literature that shows explosions of tar has come from initiation of the VOCs. And by the way, the stack being 30 feet high, the hot stuff will be down below. It gets colder as it goes up. The VOCs may also, in addition to what's emitted, will condense, and you'll have a concentration of flammable vapors in the stack. So I'm worried about firefighter safety. Oh, and I don't know, and I'm addressing this to you too as well. You might want to check with the local fire departments to see if the 25-foot entrance is adequate for a firefighting emergency response.
It's always been, 25 foot's always been for any emergency vehicle.
You have it listed as 2 ways, so that's only 12 feet each way.
But it's one continuous 25 foot. If there's ever an issue, we get the trucks off the road and they can have all 25 feet. No different than any other asphalt plant, again, operating in New York State. Many of them have nothing more than 2-way 25-foot access. A normal road that the fire truck, if it needs to get to our facility, is going to go down a road whose lane is no bigger than 13 feet. They have to get there. So, and I've talked to fire departments in Hamburg when we were putting the plant up in Hamburg, and they've gone through everything and they looked at everything and there was no concern. And again, check with everybody else and what everybody else is doing in New York State to make asphalt so we can have some safe roads. And I'm doing it no differently than anybody else doing it. And to every New York State DEC rule and regulation. And the DEC has vetted this extensively for all of the volatiles, the emissions. I had to produce the noise studies. I had to produce the odor studies. I had to do a traffic study. I did an appraisal study to make sure that we didn't devalue any other neighborhood. And we went through everything that any other prudent asphalt manufacturer would have to go through. And it was not taken lightly. I asked about the distance because I wasn't sure if you meant from property to property line or from actual manufacturing. One of the reasons was after the approval, we are looking at splitting that property. If we split the property, if we would have done it beforehand, we wouldn't even, I guess, be here because the manufacturing facility would be well towards the front, further away than the 500 feet. The shakers you're talking about, that's only if we would be separating existing separating existing milled material so that we could become a green facility. The New York State DOT allows you up to 30%, so you're not buying more aggregate, we're not producing more aggregate, we're not taking more aggregate out of the earth, which is a non-renewable resource. If we screened it there, you'd have a small screener on it. Everything else would be coming in. None of it out of the 150,000 tons of material produced, you're talking about roughly 130,000 ton of, a little over 100,000 ton, I should say, of aggregate. That it's about 500 or 600 pounds per ton AC content. The rest of it is stone. So out of the 150,000, it's less than that for raw material for aggregate. Out of that number, we might be using 30,000 ton of milling materials that we would have to screen before putting back into the material so that we can make the material green, which we're all trying to get to a greener environment. Taking that into account, everything else that would be brought in is pre-screened, doesn't have to be touched, gets piled, and just simply gets loaded. Again, we are not doing anything different here than Lafarge up the street, than Gernot in West Seneca, than anywhere else. We picked a site that did not need a variance. We picked a site that did not need rezoning, that was zoned properly. I just want to make sure everybody understands and can appreciate that when making their decision as to what we're doing. The material that we would be producing is hot mix asphalt. She would be the first woman-owned business in all of New York State producing this material, which the New York State DOT is looking for every day, women and minority businesses to be able to help the road contractors rebuild our roads. She'd be the only one, she'd be the first and the only one in New York State producing asphalt. And she would not be producing it in any different manner than allowable by the New York State DEC or any of our other competitors. And there is one right in the town of Niagara, and there has not been one complaint. They emit the same emissions or more because they're permitted for it. I believe at least 100,000 ton more than we are. They actually do blasting and the segregating of all the materials there. And the amount of AC that they store is got to be at least 3 to 4 times what we would be storing. I just want to make sure everybody understands that and can appreciate that when making their decision. These concerns, it's not a new process. I appreciate your concerns. However, it's been vetted out in many, many other asphalt manufacturing facilities that they've ended up not being a concern that needs to be where you need foam on the site, where there has been fires, where there has been an issue where a fire truck couldn't get to the site, where dust has been exorbitant. I mean, that's what the study's for. That's what the modeling's for. That's what the New York State DEC questioned us for 7 or 8 months. And our expert, and I'm not the expert on it, but our expert was there and available and answered every question until they got to the point of the draft permit. I don't know if anybody on this board has any studies that have been produced by anybody else to dispute our odor study, to dispute our emission study, to dispute our traffic study, to dispute our noise study. If they do, I would appreciate copies of them. But everything produced to this point and verified by the New York State DEC, who does this every day, has been asked, answered, and I believe answered to, you know, to the satisfaction of the DEC to allow us for a permit, a draft permit for 150,000 tons per year. I'm sorry if that was long-winded, sorry.
So I'm hearing the asphalt. I don't know, are we taking all the asphalt from the road, taking apart? I don't know. Could you please, I'm really ignorant on that.
You can use some home. Typically,
Yeah.
typical asphalt is a mixture of, so when you get crude, still gasoline, they mix that with stones, various sizes.
Then we should be checking this site to see if it got on.
So it's a mix of stone and it's the result of. Are they using old Billy? This is the first time I heard of it. She said that they were addition to stones. Some of the aggregate stone various sizes. First time I heard of it.
Well, I think there's a lot of people on the phone
Yeah.
because, and,
Well, can you give an update of the EC report? I mean, most people don't.
well, I think that, we probably should give an
If
opportunity.
we got some, we got it.
Some of the people that are on the phone, if there's anybody, actually, there's not many people. Look like a lot more. 41 first. I'm sorry, what?
She's still on the phone.
Oh, yeah, so I think that, maybe. There's, in the past, we've given people on the phone an opportunity, not a public hearing, and I think that's important to understand, it's simply an open meeting and a public meeting. I also think it's important for everybody on the phone and on WebEx to understand that this board is an advisory board only, and it's not a decision-making. So any recommendations that the issues will go back to the town of Niagara, and then the town of Niagara, they will be responsible for making final determination on the project. But in the past, let people speak quickly. Was any questions or comments? I don't think there's that many. Because there's quite a few projects left, and I see a lot of the names that I recognize for subsequent projects. So I think. So, okay, I don't know how best to. Should they not
Speak up so they hear to unmute yourself if you want to talk.
If you would like to speak, have questions or comments, I guess, on this comments mostly on this project, you can unmute yourself and go ahead and speak it. Hopefully, not everyone does it all at once. So we'll see how it goes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, say your name too.
Hear me?
Yes. Yep, go ahead. Just state your
Okay, I
name.
just want to say I appreciate the planning board reviewing the project. I really do. And the previous speaker made a valiant pitch for this project, and I appreciate her pressures that she's under. But there's one thing that I want to say. I'm a Niagara Falls City Councilman, Chris Voccio. I apologize for not introducing myself. There's one thing that differentiates this location from where some of the other asphalt locations may be, and that is it is adjacent to the city of Niagara Falls, which has been a dumping ground for some really bad stuff for not even decades, but a century. And if you dig in the city of Niagara Falls on a project, there's a good chance you're going to discover
Where's
stuff
E?
that. I'm sorry?
Thank you.
No,
Should I continue?
Thank you.
Somebody interrupted.
Go ahead, Chris.
I just want to finish up and say the city of Niagara Falls has a legacy, and not a good one, when it comes to chemicals and materials that are to this day still creating problems for us. And rather than aggravate that situation, I prefer that we do things to mitigate that. And I think one of those things we can do is to reject this project, not at this board meeting today. I understand your role, but certainly this process that you're part of hopefully will end this project, and they can find a much better place to produce this product that I acknowledge is necessary to make the world go round. That's all I have to say. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Is there anybody else on the phone or via WebEx that would like to say anything?
Hi, this is Jeremy Colby. Do you hear me?
Go ahead.
Hi, Jeremy Colby, General Counsel for Niagara University. We submitted a number of comments, including a report by EA Engineering outlining the various deficiencies in the proposal. We also submitted comments to the DEC by our attorneys at Lippis Mathias. I won't reiterate, everything that's in the documents we submitted. I understand that this is a difficult. The logistics and the sound are a little bit difficult here today, so I want to try and keep it short. I do, however, think that it's very important, a few points to note out. I know that the developer had indicated that the zoning permits this. I think Niagara University disagrees. It's actually not a permitted use, because the although it is it is zoned heavy industry, it is, it outlines, and again, this is more for the town of Niagara, I understand, outlines the various permitted uses, none of which are,
Hey,
I'm sorry.
no, I apologize. Keep going.
Okay, so the zoning board outlines various industrial codes that are permitted, and the industrial code associated with this use is not one of those permitted uses. I just wanted to note that. But also, more importantly, the county planning board, I think one of the reasons that you engage in this exercise is to take a look at the bigger picture and how this impacts not just a little sliver of the town of Niagara, but the rest of the county and the various other municipalities. And that's why it's here, is because it's within 500 feet of the border of the town of Lewiston. And, as we indicated earlier, I don't exactly know where the plant is supposed to be. It sounds like from today's meeting, it's intended to go closer to Whitmer than to the service road, the Power Authority service road. But again, the property line is within several hundred feet of a dormitory, and frankly, regardless of where the project goes on this site, that is the main entrance for our campus. People coming to see the campus to see if they want to spend 4 years at Niagara University are going to drive right by that asphalt plant. And I got to tell you, Niagara University is one of the largest employers in the county, estimated economic impact of nearly $240 million. I think that's a very risky gamble over, a half dozen seasonal jobs. I think there are, again, plenty of other sites that would be much more compatible to this use than the present site. And so I'll rest there. If there's any questions for me, that's fine. But we submitted a number of comments that that adequately outline our position.
Is there anybody else that would like to say anything?
Hi, I just want to say that my analysis that it was properly zoned was based upon the town of Niagara's initial approval. First. Second, I did offer another site to the Niagara University, which is heavily industrial as well, or zoned heavy industrial, which is 3535 Hyde Park. And my understanding was, in that offer, Niagara University said they weren't interested anyway. That being said, I'm trying to work this out. And, if it is a necessary product that we have to produce, and she's entitled to produce it like everybody else is, I'm not sure within why 3535 Hyde Park, which has nothing to do with Niagara University, would also be a problem. Just go ask them, please.
How many adjacent properties are located next to this project? Houses, bigger houses.
It's all zone industrial. It's all industrial. The closest thing is the dormitory right here for Niagara.
Can you take your down south, there's the Niagara Falls right there in Pennsylvania.
It's all junkyards.
It's all junkyard.
It's all junkyards.
Yeah. See how close it is.
Gentlemen, parts and wheelchairs is not recommended.
It used to be yellow, but I remember they updated it, so yeah, it's gonna be like it. It's this property right here. This Niagara University, Power Service Drive here, and the dorms that they were talking about right here. Niagara University. In your packets, copies of all the public comments that we received, emails that were sent through Legislator Chris Robbins, they were included in the packets that got emailed out to everybody. I think as the board, talks about and determines what the recommendation will be, I think it's important to note that you can't deny public opposition, public opinion of the project. However, you can and should look at a project based upon the criteria the state law sets out, and a refresher, a copy of that was put in your packets, and the types of things that this board should be considering. I just want to follow up on one thing that council mentioned, and the town of Niagara zoning code, which I think is very applicable to this board, is that in the zoning code for heavy industrial districts, the permitted principal uses are laid out, and they have 31 allowable uses that follow the standard industrial manual, and each of, they call them SIC codes. So each of those codes, I reviewed all of those, and SIC code for asphalt plants is 2951, and that is not one of the allowable permitted as of right uses. They have a lot of different manufacturing specific codes that are within the zoning law, but that is not one of them. And it is also not one of the uses that is listed as use permitted with a special permit. So I think that's something for the board to consider when determining what's.
I'm going to answer a motion right now. I mean, we've listened to people there, we listened to both of them.
I'm sorry, can you speak up if you're making a motion? I heard very little to that whole thing, and I trust that there's a transcript of this meeting, so I can get it later, because I apologize, I can't hear much. Also, I'd like to know the comments that were received, the public comments that were received by the board, along with I believe the attorney for Niagara University said it was A&E prepared comments. I didn't receive any of those, and I would have been prepared had I received them to comment back. I guess at the end of the day, I'm going to go back to the question of, I offered another site, 3535 Hyde Park Boulevard, which I agree is not in front of the board today. However, the attorney for NU had indicated that, this is not the right location. Everybody's agreeing that we need asphalt. Everybody's agreeing that it can be made, I believe, that it can be made prudently and within the New York State DEC guidelines, requirements, restrictions, and permit. But everybody's saying this isn't the right site. So I had offered to NU in particular, appreciating the fact of the location of this next to NU, and offered 3535 Hyde Park in a discussion with your attorney. I believe it was your hired attorney. And I got a comment back that wouldn't be acceptable either. So I guess the question is, I'm trying to work with everybody. If this site's not acceptable, why would 3535 Hyde Park not be acceptable? And I'm trying to resolve the issues here. I'm trying to be a good neighbor. I'm trying to be a prudent manufacturing company. And I'm not hearing anything back to discuss this. But again, I apologize because I heard very little of the discussions, unless they were directed directly towards me. I heard very little of it, so I don't know what else was being said.
Mr. Chairman, I have questions. Okay. I'll say that I have a couple questions, so I'll just say the questions and wait. I'd like to know the hours of operation on an annual basis. When do you plan to operate? What days? How long? I didn't hear anything about the noise level. I don't know if it's been measured. Do you have a number? I'm very concerned about the fire suppression. We talked about, fire trucks. Well, fire trucks bring water. I'm worried about petroleum fires that are not contained by water. So I'm worried about that part. I'm also concerned about the emissions, the air emissions. And I've heard that there are minor here, minor there, but I'm interested in the cumulative effect of all of those. Didn't hear any numbers there. And I wanted to know if the height of the chimney, that 31 feet, is that height, ground level height, 31 feet, or is there something underneath supporting that chimney that's going to put it up at 45 feet? That's it.
Okay, so let me answer most of your questions if I remember most of them. The hours of operation will typically, and the reason I say typically is because we will be producing for the New York State DOT. And the New York State DOT dictates not only the mix that they would like, they also dictate the temperature of that mix. They also dictate when it will be laid. So a lot of times we don't want, the DOT has, or whatever, well, I guess for inconveniencing of the public, they have decided to do a lot of night paving. That being said, the asphalt for the any New York State DOT project would have to be in accordance with the New York State DOT contract. However, I would say 75%, right around there, maybe even a little higher, would be produced between the hours of 6 a.m. and 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Typically in the height of this, and that's typically beginning mid-April to beginning of May, weather dependent. You're usually lucky if you can run through Thanksgiving. The good Lord gives you some good weather, you might be able to run a few more weeks in December. The temperature on the ground has to be 40 degrees and rising for any asphalt to be laid for any type of commercial project. So typically May, Thanksgiving, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m., 4 p.m. Saturdays, typically 6 a.m., 12 afternoon, and it gets shut down. Night operations would be pursuant to any DOT projects in or Town of Niagara project or County of Niagara project. If they have a county project out, sometimes they require night paving. Other than that, there's no reason for us to be wanting to be open and working in the dark. I don't find it safe to work in the dark. I prefer not to. The question on the 31-foot height, that is from the ground level. That's not, there's no hidden agenda there. There's no footers 10 feet in the ground, so it would only be 21 feet off the ground. It is 31 feet from the ground, from where our feet are on the ground. The questions on the emissions, again, I'm going to refer to the New York State DEC and my expert who worked extensively with the New York State DEC and just refer it there. I don't think it needs a further explanation or I guess defending of that. The fire suppression, again, if there's a specific example of where there has been a fire due to AC and asphalt plants, and the fact that you close the combustion, the catalyst that would be going to it, and it's a closed system, there's no oxygen, then it gets choked of oxygen and it gets choked of the combustion, there's no fire. I'm unaware of any in my history. I'm in the last 20 years plus, where there's been a fire at an asphalt manufacturing facility. I'd be happy to address it if there is in fact a real concern that's plausible. At this point, I'm sorry, I'm unaware of any that would really be plausible. You said a noise study, or you said you had some questions on the noise. There was a noise study presented. There was a noise study that we had paid for. We had done the analysis on. We had done actual infield testing, and there's an expert report that's been submitted. I'm unaware of any other expert report that disputes those.
I had a difficult time hearing you on the hours, so I understand that you're thinking of doing this from like 6 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yes, sir, that would be the majority of them, yes.
And could you, if you wanted to, put a second shift on and go from 4 p.m. to midnight?
if I, again, the only reason, first of all, 150, this plant is really capable of 300,000 plus tons per year, but it wouldn't be permitted. So we couldn't make it. And it's just not safe, nor is it economical for us to put in a second operation. I wouldn't have enough employees. There'd be no reason. It would not be as safe as during the day operations. And again, the only time we would be operating at nighttime, and even a lot of times then, what we would do is produce the asphalt, put it into the silos, and then we wouldn't have to produce it anymore because it can stay in the silos at the necessary temperature for up to about 48 hours before it starts losing its temperature and its efficacy to be laid. But we could do that. So even if there was a night paving job, if they didn't need more than, those are 250-ton silos, if they didn't need more than 500 tons, we could fill the silos, and all we would need would be a batching man to load the trucks. You wouldn't be producing it. However, again, our noise study actually went right next to an actual operating facility. It's on Union Road by Granat, permitted by the New York State DEC, and during the middle of the day when the plant was running, took noise level data and then took our distances and then superimpose however they do it. I'm not a noise expert, and produced the report that we produced. And their conclusion was there'd be no detriment to the environment or to the surrounding neighbors at a decibel level that would be something that would be a concern. Can't think, did I miss a question?
When do you anticipate that the DEC will give you a ruling?
The DEC has given us a ruling. They just pulled it back until I get the location finalized. Once the location's finalized, the DEC is prepared to go back to issue the draft permit. It's just they can't issue it on a site that's now in question. The equipment is not changing. The process is not changing. The emissions would not be changing. The decibel levels coming off of the plant producing the asphalt would not change, whether it's here at 4660 Whitmer Road, or if somebody likes 3535 Hyde Park Boulevard, I'm happy to talk to them about that and put in a new site plan for that location. Mr. Michael Cerrone has been in the construction business and his family for years. I've talked with him. He loves that location for this. I've made a deal with him if we can go forward. I'm trying to come up with some alternatives that would make everybody happy. But at the end of the day, it's the same equipment. It's the same process. It simply would be trucked to a different location and then the foundations be put in there, which would change little to nothing. The only thing I would have to do is, as long as my setbacks were the same or greater in the new location to the DEC, most likely wouldn't have to change anything on the permit.
Thank you. Anybody else got anything else? Does somebody want to make a motion? I'll make a motion. Walt?
Okay, before I make my motion, just a quick comment on the VOCs.
Can you hear Walt? Roseanne, can you hear him?
I can a little bit, but again, I can, I mean,
I'll try,
if it were,
I'll try to make it louder.
Thank you.
On the observations, by the way, a baghouse is does something for particulates, but it doesn't address VOCs, just in mentioning it. But I'm going to make a motion to reject the proposal for 3 reasons. One reason is the SIC code issue being allowed here. Number 2,
and wheelchairs is not recommended on the
reason that I've got to review was objective data. It appears as though there is a lack of technical engineering that would prevent chemical and physical agents from off the property. Being able to go off the property would be my concern for Niagara County.
I'm sorry, I don't know who's speaking, but have you reviewed the DEC permit in its entirety, and have you looked at all of the information that Mr. Jim Pay, our expert, has submitted relative to that?
And that's why I'm still making this. And number 3 is the fire explosion potential because of the volatile, flammable nature and the lack of firefighting preparation and equipment on site. So for those 3 reasons, SIC, especially the VOCs and benzene, lack of attention to the little pieces that are listed as fugitive emissions, and also the potential for fire and explosions. And we now have seen literature that's that's available that shows that over the last 10 years, there's been a handful of asphalt fires and explosions. And we need to be prepared for those fires.
Andrea?
Actual explosions?
Actual tank explosions, yes, correct.
Tank explosions, truck for delivery, explosions of tanks on site. I'm sorry, if I would just request that data. If you have it after the meeting, that would be appreciated.
Be the tank, that would be the mixing area, that would be your silos, cigarette smoking, the spark and ember. Those, when you get benzene, toluene, and those type of things, they are extremely gas flammable, and all you need is the right condition. You can go, and you don't have media to fight.
And you have that data you could provide.
Okay, you got a motion made for second?
Yes.
Okay.
That's just one example.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 9, 8-0.
I'm sorry, can you give me, I couldn't hear that very well.
Mainly because of the 3 reasons on the wall. Mentioned.
Yes, but I'm sorry, how many board members are there and what was the vote?
Oh,
Unanimous.
there's 9,
Unanimous.
there's 9 board members, 1 is absent.
And the vote.
So there's a unanimous vote by 8 of them. And, okay.
That's it. Also, the talk of Bill, talk of the Niagara being zoning area too.
Right, that was the SIC code.
Okay, the next one we're gonna take is Niagara site plan review. That's my Carlos. The construction of 20,000 square foot medical office building. Maybe road. Next down 19 square. 10.5 here. David Smith here.
Thank you for your time, everybody.
It's here.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay. Could you put up the plan that Amy, can you put up the plan
Yep, I'm working on it.
okay, all right. Can you see the drawing I have up on my board here?
Yeah.
Everyone has a copy of it in front of them.
Okay, that's the landscape plan. You want me to present that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just present from that if you want, just because we made copies of the landscape plan because I had the buildings. And everything.
Okay, all right. So, all right, I'll talk about the landscaping plan. All right, I'll try to give you a quick overview how we got to where we're at. Now, back in 2017, we presented this plan as a concept plan. It includes the original Excelsior Orthopedics, which also is on a separate parcel that's up in the, we'll call it the northwest corner. That was built in 2017. Then we proceeded to design a private road and the concept plan for 4 medical office buildings. And that was approved back in 2018 in May by the town of Niagara. It was approved by the town of Wheatfield in August of 2018. We also got the city of Niagara Falls Engineering Department approval for the water and sewer, as well as the city of Niagara Falls Water Board for the same reason, water and sewer. We also had to get approval from the DOT for the entrance onto Niagara Falls Boulevard, the connection out in the middle of the road for the water line, and for the connection over on a road connection over on Williams Road. So that was approved in 2008. All the roads, the utilities have been built to date. Recently, the last testing was done on the water line, and that has been submitted to the health department. So today we're presenting what we're calling phase 2, which is 2 medical office buildings. One's 16,000 square foot, one's 20,000 square foot. We're utilizing the storm drainage system that was put in previously that it handles not only the road, but also the buildings and the parking areas as well. As the drawing, as you see up in front of you, shows all the landscaping we're proposing along the right of way, as along the perimeter. Now, Joe Smith, obviously, this parcel also is adjacent to his dealership, which is David Chevy, Buick, GMC. So that's the other part. But the total acreage of all those parcels is about 23 acres. The acreage for the development we're talking about now is 13 acres, which of 9 acres is in the town of Niagara and 4 acres is in the town of Wheatfield. So the two buildings we're talking about again are 16,000 square foot and 20,000 square foot. So we're connecting into utilities that are already been put into the road system. That's the water, sewer, storm drainage. We are adding one additional fire hydrant that'll be close to the 20,000 square foot building, so we meet the fire code requirements for that. Other than that, everything else it was put in place. These buildings will not have a sprinkler system, but they are within the appropriate distance to all the fire hydrants, except for the new one that we're adding. That way we meet not only the building code requirements, but the fire code requirements as well. Also, back in 2017, we did get a variance for the town of Niagara for the parking requirement, so that we wouldn't have to meet one space for every 100 square feet. We actually have one space for every 150 square feet. Actually, our numbers are actually better than that. We're more like one space for every 125 square feet. I don't know unless you want me, I could go through the storm drainage and everything else, but that's entirely up to you whether it's necessary to do that. We did get just today our comments from GHD on the 2 buildings. We've already addressed them and sent them back. Obviously, this project has a current speedies permit because of the site and how much disturbance is in place. So Joe Smith wants to move forward and build the first 2 buildings, one later this year and one next year. He was talking to several medical groups that is very close to getting a letter of intent from one of them to proceed with one of the 2 buildings. The only other thing is, and again, if you can see it, I'll put up this drawing, which shows the buildings that are being proposed. Joe's also working with Cadeni. They did an aerial drawing here that shows all 4 buildings up in here. I know it's probably kind of hard to see since it's small. And then this is another rendering that shows the 2 buildings that are being proposed at this point in time. So that's essentially our abbreviated presentation. We did get planning board approval with the condition that we get Niagara County Planning Board approval last week, and as well as address GHD's comments. They are the town engineer. And then with this, I'll open it up to any questions.
Any questions? Okay, I'll move. Second. Okay, motion made by Marty, moved second by Bill. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Kristen.
Yeah, she's
Next, I need to.
Sitting here, so patient. Which one are you?
That's okay, 'cause I'm not working, I have kids around me, I have a husband. all that.
You want to go next? Is nobody ever going to go next? Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, you go next. Chris.
I did it really quick.
What number?
3 or 4 down. It's Hoover.
Over there?
So the only reason that we're here is because we are adjacent to the town Lewiston town line. So, and let's just point that out. Hoover Dairy, as you know, they're operating the restaurant off of Park Road. And what they'd like to do in an effort to comply with the COVID restrictions, the governor's mandate is for a pavilion in. Last year, they put a tent up and it worked fantastic, except it ended up being a challenge during wet weather. The grass started dying. What they'd like to do, and they were worried about the fence going over. They'd like to do is put a pavilion up. It is freestanding detached, 40 by 38, I think, or yeah.
This is 48.
40 by 36. And it's going to have a concrete pad under it. Very minimal disturbance. They're taking it down and grading to it.
No service to it.
No services, no utilities. No, there have to be waiting tables out there. People are going to window at the actual restaurant and taking their food over there. That's a pavilion, is not us. That's TNT's building. So, Hoover's came up with this down to get a site plan approval, building department required it. We would be converting the parcel itself. We did submit everything to the town of the clerk, they had everything got. He has copies of that, and that's certified. We met before the town of Wheatfield Planning Board 2 weeks ago. They had a couple of questions, but just things that we're taking care of now. One is we just need a cleaned up survey and coming to you. So that is nothing.
No additional parking requirements?
Nope. I know. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion made by Andrea.
Yeah. Very good.
I think the relationship.
What was that? Let's have a Hoover.
All the Sarah?
There you go.
Lindsay will say.
Can I start earlier? Because this is awful late and, you know, I have to go and get my grandchildren now.
Usually they're quick. Well, hold on till we get this one down. We made the second. Okay, any further discussion?
Only I have to abstain because it's Wheatfield. Not with objection, but I have to abstain.
Any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, one second. Go ahead.
I just think of it. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Thank you. And the next one, 6724, town manager.
She's trying.
Request by John Council a parcel SBL 131-11/148.1 to 4 parcels, 0.05, 0.031, and 2815 acres to allow for the construction single-family residential homes on the 3 smaller lots. The property is 29.7 acres, and it's an R1 single-family residential. Does anybody here represent Jane Russell?
Yes, it's Richard Haight. Can you hear me?
No, yep, we can hear you, Richard.
Oh, you there?
I'm just bringing up, no, can you see the screen where I'm bringing up the site plan?
I cannot.
Let me try sharing again. Sometimes it likes to kick me out. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah, it's just coming up as a blank screen, but I can describe the project if you'd like.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay. I believe Mr. Runkle is also on the call. But as indicated, he owns 29.7 acres of vacant land at the east end of the current terminus of Teresa Lane in the town of Niagara. And the site is zoned R1. What he would like to do is subdivide the property to create 3 new building lots. A half acre, well, he wants to extend Teresa Lane by approximately 170 feet. and then terminate it in a turnaround that meets the fire code. It's going to create a single lot on the north side that's going to be approximately a half an acre, and then 2 lots on the south side that are just over 3/10 of an acre. As part of the project, he's also going to convey 1/1500 of an acre of property to 4615 Teresa Lane on the north side, and just approximately 400 of an acre to 4610 Teresa Lane on the south side, just to kind of square things up. He's going to extend the sanitary, water, and storm in alignment with what's currently existing in Teresa Lane. And those utilities will be dedicated to the town upon completion. That's the general basis of the project. If there are any questions, certainly be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
Would that, this subdivision, would that end that subdivision future, that, for that development cul-de-sac?
I'm sorry, I cannot hear the question. Amy, could you repeat that?
He was asking about allowing extension in the future of the cul-de-sac. So is there a possibility for that, the extension of the subdivision?
There is potential to expand it in the future. However, Mr. Runkle has no plans to do it at this point. The town required that the sanitary be terminated in a manhole with a stub pipe out to the east to allow for future connection. The same thing with the water line is going to terminate in a fire hydrant, but there will be an extension and a valve to the east to allow for future extension of that as well. But at this point, he has no plans to subdivide further. Mr. Runkle plans on retaining lot number 1 for his own building purposes in the future, and then to sell lots 2 and 3.
Any other further discussion? Do I hear a motion? Don't move. Tony? Second. Second, Paul.
Thank you.
Here, say any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, you got it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for waiting. The next one is 6725, Town of Wheatfield, site plan review. A request for the Broadway Group for the planning board to review a site plan for the construction of a 9100 square foot Dollar General store located at 2314 Niagara Falls Boulevard. The property is 1.14 acres and it's zone C1, commercial with Niagara Falls Boulevard overlay. Tony Perkins, Dollar General.
Good afternoon, Mark, everyone. This is Mark Romanowski from Rupp Boss on behalf of the Broadway Group, the applicant for this particular matter. I'm going to do my best to respond to any questions that you might have, but I will say, as the other commenters had, that it's nearly impossible to hear the board members through the current setup for technology. Regardless, as the summary set forth, the clients are proposing a 9,100 square foot store at the location 2300 Niagara Falls Boulevard. It's about a 1.2 and change acre site. After a fair amount of working with both the town planning board, and I know the chairman is here on the board as well, we were able to work with the DOT to revise the location to move it over to Niagara Falls Boulevard. They originally wanted it on the Cayuga Drive extension, which certainly didn't make sense from our perspective for really anybody. So we were able to move that driveway onto Niagara Falls Boulevard where it belonged in the first place. And that freed up and really made it a more sensible location for a commercial driveway. The facility is going to have approximately 30 parking spots. We are requesting a waiver from the village or from the town planning board on that particular piece. And we believe in our experience with Dollar General such that around 30 spaces is certainly appropriate. There is also a fair amount of landscaping that's been proposed for the site as sought after by the planning board as well. This includes screening in particular for the individuals along Cayuga Drive Extension and then the residential properties to the west. Amy, thanks. You're getting there with the plans, so the board can probably see them down in front of you. So as you can see, a fair amount of screening around the perimeter of the site to help buffer the site from the adjacent neighborhood. In addition, as far as the aesthetics goes, we've proposed a hardy board finish to the store, which matches on all three or all four sides. Three of the sides are largely the same. The front elevation obviously would be different from just from it's a main entrance, so it'll appear differently and it has a signage on it. So similar look all the way around. So it's aesthetically pleasing again to the residential neighbors immediately surrounding the site. The dumpster at the rear of the site is fully enclosed. So again, that will not cause any type of nuisance on the folks around the site. With respect to truck traffic on this operation, most of these Dollar Generals are low truck vehicle generators. Worst or best case scenario, depending on your point of view, is usually about one, maybe two deliveries per day. Oftentimes it's actually averages out less than that, but that's really a worst case scenario as far as the volume goes from that particular location. We've also looked at traffic quite a bit. These facilities don't generate a great deal of traffic. They're about a 30 vehicle per hour during peak type facility, so they really don't generate a great deal of traffic. And the DOT's kind of concurred with our traffic engineers' conclusions that this is not going to be a major traffic impediment, especially on Niagara Falls Boulevard, which carries thousands of vehicles a day. So this is not going to have a significant impact on on Niagara Falls Boulevard. So that's a general overall view of the project. You can see the site plan there in front of you. I'm not sure if there's anything else in particular that the board would like us to discuss, but we're certainly happy to answer any questions that we can hear to the best of our ability.
I have a question. Is there enough room once the truck enters the parking lot to turn around out, or are they going to have to back out onto that?
No, there's plenty of room. This layout here that they use is basically allows for a T-turn. So what they'll do is they'll pull in, turn to the right in front of the store, and then kind of back around the corner to do the loading at the rear of the store there, and then be able to pull straight out. And like I said, this is similar to layout that they've used repeatedly as far as the parking lot goes, and so it functions very well to get the vehicles, even small tractor trailers, in and out of there without a problem.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is there further questions?
What's the closest Dollar General to this location?
Actually, I don't know that off the top of my head, but I do have Tara Mathias with me from the Broadway group on the line as well. Tara, would you happen to know that one off the top of your head? And Tara's on mute right now.
If you could repeat the question, because I apologize, I really couldn't hear it.
Tara, I heard the question, so I can answer. I can do it for you. It might be easier. So the question was, where's the nearest Dollar General to this location?
Yeah, I think the nearest one is a couple of miles away. If you'll give me just a second, I can maybe tell you the precise maybe the precise location of that one.
Okay, that's fine.
Are you familiar where DD's Dairy is?
Who?
DD's Dairy?
Yeah.
The ice cream, it's right there.
Right there?
Any other further questions? Okay, can I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Bill Moore. Second. Second, Tony. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
One abstention.
Okay.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everybody have another extension.
Yeah, just put it automatically for the reader. Abstention.
Okay. 6726, Town of Wheatfield, Town Code Amendment. A request by the Town of Wheatfield for the planning board to review revision to the existing town code, chapter 169, subdivision plan to address dead ends, cul-de-sacs, individual sanitary sewer grinder, pumps and major subdivisions. Can you tell us about that real quick, Walt?
This is the one on the, code change. Yeah. And this was recommended by the superintendent of highways and cleared through the town attorney and town supervisor. It helps, the highway department, being able to maintain roads better. So, of course, I can't tell you today, but this is being endorsed by the town.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody who wants to speak on this?
I don't think there was.
Okay, can I?
Somebody wanted-
Motion by Billy Cronin. Walt? No, Norm, but. Second and Norm. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. One abstention. Okay, you got it. Next one. Vote again. Okay, 6727, Town of Wheatfield. Area variances, site plan review, special permit. A request by the Niagara County Sheriff Department for the planning board to review area variance request, site plan and special permit for construction of a 180-foot self-supporting lattice emergency radio communication tower at 3747 Lockhart Road on property owned by the County Volunteer Fire Company. Area variance are needed to allow the tower to be closer than 180 feet from the property line, a fall zone of less than 180 feet, and tower height greater than 100 feet. The property is 11.5 acres, and zone R2, residential 2. Anybody there from the Niagara County Sheriff Department?
Yes, Chief Deputy Wydell from the Sheriff's Office is here.
Yeah, what else?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for entertaining this. I'm having a hard time hearing, just as the rest of the attendees have. The proposal is for a 180-foot self-supporting lattice tower to be constructed on property located at the Shawnee Fire Hall. We have enlisted a consultant to assist us through the process, Mission Critical Partners, and they've been instrumental in the planning and the development, as well as the location of these towers. The project is designed to fill gaps that are present in the current Niagara County emergency communication system. So the construction of this tower will bolster interoperable communication and responses to all emergencies throughout the county. This particular tower fills a need in the center of the county. It will help with in-building coverage in areas like Niagara County Community College, Niagara Wheatfield High School, Star Point schools. So we're really focusing in on getting located in areas where we can penetrate into these heavy buildings. This project specifically deals with interoperable communication. So it's any responder that's coming into the area from out of Niagara County. But we also intend to put our radio system, which covers our daily communications for fire and police emergencies throughout the county. I think you have the plans. It's located at the back of the Shawnee Fire Hall, a good distance off the road. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have in regards to it.
Yeah, on that, this is Joe Kimber, on that, the fall area, 180 feet. This may not have anything to do with it, but I noticed your pole exists goes over the baseball field. Any chance it could be a problem there? I know the field isn't used that much.
I have some people that are on the phone that may be able to answer how the towers are constructed. Tim Henneman from Mission Critical Partners is on. Tim, could you address the fall radius with a 180-foot self-supporting lattice tower?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Chief, and thank you everybody for your time today. So with a typical lattice tower like this, when it does fall, it doesn't tend to fall at the entire height of the tower. So generally we see anywhere from 30% to about 70 to 80% of the tower height is kind of the norm. And we did set the tower back. We've actually moved it a couple of times to push it back a little bit further and further. So it's now in that back corner of the lot. It's on top of what's presently like a spoils pile that would need to be cleared. But we do have, it looks like about 200 feet or so before it actually encroaches on that baseball field that's to the south of the tower. You know, the access road itself is about 300 feet long. So it's a good distance from any, you know, any habitable, any kind of structure, and it's also a good distance from that baseball field.
I apologize, just for the minutes, so we have it. Can you please state and spell your name, just because it's showing up as caller user ID, so we have no idea.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I should have done that to begin with. It's Tim Henneman, and Henneman is spelled Hennemann.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? So, I got a question. So Amy, where your Tom is on there, it's up in that corner, they plan to put that.
Yes. Towards the
Right
back of the
there.
property.
Okay, so the fall, we don't have a diagram of the fall zone as where it would be. I mean, we don't have a circle, right? That 180. And if the tower is 180 feet, isn't the fall zone supposed to be more than 180 feet?
In our code doesn't, or we could, doesn't distinguish between a straight tower with cable or a constructed tower like this is. So as a result, our fall zone has been identified as being the height of the tower if it falls totally over this way. So 180 foot tower, 180 foot fall zone is the definition of it. In realistic design of this particular design, it can't fall like that. It'll self-collapse. Okay. But it's an artifact of the way our code is written.
Yeah, when I read it, I said to myself, well, it says that it doesn't say dimensions. If it's falls for 180, are we recommending 80 or what's it? How much different than the actual falls on we recommending?
We're only shooting right here, the only thing would fall out would be the ball diamond. Right, but he's just looking for a number.
Well, it's 180 feet around.
But
I think it was
the ball diamond.
I think it's 75 foot. Can you hear me on the cell phone, on the phone?
We're having a little bit of difficulty, but I think if you talk loud, we should be able to hear you.
Okay, this is Walt Garrow. What is the dimension of the immediate parcel the tower is located in? Was that 75 foot?
What is the dimension of the, I'm sorry?
Of the parcel that the tower is on?
Tim Henneman, do you have the dimensions that the measurement of the plot that the tower is on?
I know the parcel itself is rather large. I don't know the exact dimensions of that overall parcel, but it is over 11 acres.
The compound of the tower is, I believe, 75 by 75. Is that correct?
That's what
I think it's actually, sorry, if you mean the tower, the proposed tower compound?
Yes.
That is 75 by, I'm looking right now, 75 by 50 feet.
Okay.
So, normally they pick the last pieces or whatever.
Typically, we would have asked them for 180 foot tower. We would have had a clear zone of 180. That's what their variance is. Instead of 180 feet.
any critical structures or any environmental use are 100 feet in diameter. It's somewhere near a house, a shed, or anything.
No.
Joint parcel, it's all.
No, it's all farmland. It's all farmland.
Yeah, well, yeah, so therefore the falls, it will be your. Well, yeah, you can't put any more 180, because there's your preference. Well, the parcel is very well reached. Yeah.
Well, it's landlocked.
I make a motion to approve the area variance. Too far away. Yeah. We have a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the area variance, site plan, addition of a special permit. Moved by Jim Savalo, seconded by Andrea. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. You got it.
Thank you. Was that approval on all three? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Yes, it was.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next one is 6728, down in New Face, special permit, site plan review. Having the this Holdings LLC for the planning board to review special permit request. The site plan for construction and operation is 5M utility scale solar. The 150-acre project is located at a remediated brownfield site at 2153 Lockport Offer Road. The total property is 308 acres and zone G1, general industrial. Does that make sense? Anybody there?
Yes, can everyone hear me okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Perfect. Well, appreciate you hearing our presentation today. My name is Peter McAuliffe. I am here from Omni Navitas. We also have Ruben Hull on as well as Chris Santola from Labella Associates, who are the engineering consultant on this project. Yeah, basically a brief overview. These are 3 5-megawatt community solar projects that are being proposed on this property at 2153 Lockport Olcott Road. As with all of these community solar projects, which I'm sure the board is familiar with and has been approached with previously and reviewed, these are installed to minimize impact to the parcel and soils that it's being located on, surrounding properties and residents, or in this case, warehouses and industrial structures, as well as surrounding visual impacts. So with these 3 5-megawatt projects, they're located on a site that is currently unused and undeveloped. It is zoned general industrial, as you mentioned. There's some existing shrubs and trees surrounding the property, which will allow for the finality or completion of these projects to be pretty well screened from any surrounding properties or public roadways. Again, as with these community solar projects, the electricity that is generated will be fed back into the transmission lines that actually run straight through the property, as you can kind of see on the screenshot that's up on the screen now, as well as along the eastern portion of the property. So we have the transmission lines right there. We're not extending or upgrading any existing utility infrastructure, which is why, another reason why this site is a desirable location for these type of projects. And then as typical with these community solar projects, at the end of the project life, the facilities or systems will be decommissioned and the property will be restored to its existing condition. Construction pretty minimal and short period of time on these projects. Once they're up and operational, it'll be a couple times a year a pickup truck coming in and out for operations and maintenance. But honestly, with the placement of the projects and connecting to the existing electrical infrastructure that's already in place there, I really think these are going to have a very, very minimal impact, if any impact, to the surrounding areas. And once they're in, I don't think anyone's really going to know that they are there, again, due to the locations being set pretty far back from the road to meet the town of Newfane zoning requirements, as well as the existing screening that is already in place on the site. So again, in short, we're proposing 3 5-megawatt community solar projects, and I'm happy to open it up for any questions or comments.
that land used for anything currently?
No, I don't believe so. That the portion of the land where the projects are being located, I don't believe it is in use currently.
Who owns the land right now?
I believe it is owned by an LLC. I'm not exactly sure as to the organizational structure of that LLC, but I believe it's Nurion Chemicals LLC is the title property holder. And again, we will not be purchasing the property, sorry, again, which is typical for most of these community solar projects. We are just going to be leasing the land from the current property owners for a short period of time, for the project life of 25 years. We will also be entering into and have begun discussions on a payment in lieu of taxes agreement with the town, as well as a host community agreement, also through the IDA as well.
Hello, this is Ruben Hull from LaBelle Associates, the engineer for the project. And just to expand on what Peter was stating, right now, this is one parcel that includes the industrial area that you can see to the left on the screen that's there, the western portion of the project. The project is 3 different arrays, and because of the way that Omni Navitas needs to work out the logistics and the electrical components, this is going to be subdivided into 3 parcels. Parcel D is the blue array that you see at the bottom of the screen. That will be on a subdivided parcel. Parcel A is the 2 that are in the upper right, and that will be separated as a subdivided parcel, which again will stand on its own. And then parcel B is the remaining, that kind of that odd L shape, and that will remain with the parent lot. So when it's done, there will be 3 lots that will include the existing industrial area.
Will there be any storage on site?
Nope, there's no battery or energy storage proposed for any of the 3 projects.
Amy, does this fit within the ordinances of town?
Yeah, so.
Is this the new, did we just approve a new?
Yes. Yeah, so the town of Newfane, they recently adopted a new solar code, and I reviewed this project against the solar code, and they do meet the criteria. Some of the things in there are the height requirements for the Newfane code is 20 feet, and they're only proposing 10 feet. They do meet the setback requirements. There are requirements for different types of plans, including the decommissioning plan, drainage, stormwater management. And so they're working on and have developed all of the plans. And so from what my understanding is of the code, they seem to be in full compliance. There is no maximum lot coverage in the industrial zone for panels. One thing that I want to note, and I think Jim, you mentioned it quickly, or asked about it, was why is in the brownfields. The front porch, and I know there's concerns about contamination and things like that, but my understanding, I reviewed a lot of the DEC reports, and the front portion of the property, there's 75 acres that are fenced in. That's a class 4 Superfund, New York State Superfund site, so it has been state standards. And the back acreage where the solar panels are going, that was never contaminated. It was never developed, and it's not in any of. I looked through all the DEC reports that I could find, and there's 2 of them. So there's no issues with them moving forward with a solar project done on that area as far as contamination is concerned. There's groundwater treatment that's ongoing on the front area, but that's fully fenced in. Owned by chemicals. And there's quite a bit of vegetation that will be left on site. So there's a lot of natural screening already in place. And those are, mature trees. So it'll provide significant screening.
For the solar. Question is, if parcel, solar field 1, 2, and 3 considered a single 15, well,
they are considered one.
So it's not 3 projects, it's 1 project?
Well, there's 3 separate, it's one referral. One referral.
I'm getting back to this aspect is if they were all one instead of 1, 2, and 3, would they still meet?
Yes. I reviewed it as 115 megawatt against the town code.
Any process. I think it would be different if it was represented as 15 megawatts.
I reviewed the project as a 15, because that's how it's presented, as 15 megawatts of solar on 115 acres of undeveloped land. So that's how I reviewed the project. So it wouldn't make a difference. It makes sense because they're one parcel right now. It makes sense to do it that way rather than having 3 separate projects all on the same acreage. Because it's, all one company, it's same decommissioning plan, or actually they have 3 separate decommissioning plans, one for each parcel, for each specific project.
Amy, how far is it from Kowalski's property?
From the what?
Kowalski's property, the one we had down in the Great Southern Road.
No, that's not Drake Settlement, that's Slayton Settlement.
Yeah,
That's a long way.
Yeah.
Okay, I got the wrong road, sorry about
I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
that. Yeah.
I make the motion.
Okay, motion been made by Billy Opponent to approve it, seconded. Second. Tony? Yeah. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Yeah, you have to vote. Okay, you got it. Well, there's another gentleman up there. Did he want to say anything?
I think there's one more. Oh yeah, sorry.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
You all set? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Stan Lashford. Use variance, request for Ron Burnick for the planning board to review a use variance request for the operation of 17,250 square foot health and fitness sports and recreation located at 1057 Lincoln Avenue. The property is 1.37 and zone neighborhood business. Anybody represent Ron Burnick?
This is that old car parts.
Okay, where is it, Amy?
I think.
Okay.
I think there is someone on the line though.
It's right next to the skate range.
Right, I was gonna say, right next to the skate. Yeah.
John, I think you're muted. I just sent you a request to unmute. Okay.
Hi, I'm representing Ronald Burnick for today, and it is 1051 Lincoln Avenue, not 1057.
What is it, 1051?
1051, correct.
I have the right address in the paperwork.
You do.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, explain to us what you want.
Pardon me?
You want to just give a brief overview of what you're looking to do at the property?
Yes, so we are looking to facilitate and outfit the inside of the building with a strength and conditioning area for sports performance. We are looking to put a batting cages, 4 batting cages with a sprint running area in the facility. We are looking to put a baseball and softball indoor infield for them to do some infielding. And we are also looking to put some pitching mounds for our pitchers and catchers in that area.
Okay.
That's a great idea. I'll make a motion to approve this.
Why do we need a use variance?
So the question was, why do you need a use variance?
So when I talked to the city of Lockport, they said that the zoning was for retail as it was a Max Auto Part, and that we would have to get it rezoned for the sports and recreation.
I'm going to show a quick map to the board. I'm going to try to share my screen. The zoning in that area is hodgepodge. It's kind of, it's been rezoned and multiple, it's right here in the middle. No, it's not showing it, but, okay, well, it's not showing. So
not one.
The zoning here is mixed up because it's right next door to Skateland, which is, you know, a similar type of entertainment, active type use. And this has a different zoning and this has a different zoning. So there's B1, B3, B4, all within these three properties right here. And the city is going through a comprehensive zoning update as well as their comprehensive plan update right now. So these issues will be fixed in the future, but for now, because it's undetermined what the exact zoning in the future will be of, you know, this entire area, the city is doing a use variance.
All right, I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion made by Norm. Seconded? Second. Second by Walt. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Got it.
Okay, great. So the board recommended approval, and so that'll go back to the city of Lockport, and then the city of Lockport will make the final determination. So let's go back to Jason Newell, the city.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Old business?
I don't have any old business, but I have.
New business.
Okay, so here's new business. Just in your packets, I included a copy of some stuff that I sent to Walt and I think Joe in regards to the county planning board and just for thorough guidance of what the board looks for state law, what the issues we're supposed to be looking at, and then what our actions are. So a question came up about whether we could wait until the municipality held a public hearing and did finish seeker before we look at it, because right now we're looking at projects that are all different stages. And I talked to the state, reviewed various state laws, and talked to the Department of State and had them review some case law information that they gave me. And the county planning board review is part of the seeker process. That's the county planning board is one piece of it. So by state law, this board only needs to see part one. So we don't need to see negative declarations. We don't have to have seeker done. Some municipalities would send it to us until then. Nothing saying that they can't. But this board's job is to look at the materials required by the municipality to take action on seeker. So we can't require that a public hearing of. Fortunately, it'd be great if we could, because then we could get, you know, additional input, but that input is.
Can't require it, but it's okay if it does.
Right, so as long, the trigger with the state is that it has to be sent to the county planning sometime from the municipality receives the project until before they take final approval. Anywhere in there, they can send it, which is not good. They really need to fix that area.
I mean, that really hamstrings us because we get a situation where we approve something.
Yeah.
And then we find out a week later, everybody's against it and there's all these problems that we never heard of.
And that's one of the things, right? You know, that was one of the things when I was looking for stuff. And we were talking about having a special meeting, plan. This board doesn't have any bylaws. And went back and, you know, I looked at stuff from years ago and there was never any bylaws. That might be something that legislature around 19, that's all we have everything. And then there was a resolution maybe 7 years ago to have all. And then the resolution, I think before that, they have an actual farmer. Well, yeah, and Julie was on the board for a while, Julie Blackman. So, you know, that's something to consider. And then I know maybe Joe, she said something.
Well, this was an hobby.
But this was not, makes sense.
We used to have this many referrals and then they have one that took almost an hour.
Yeah, and I said that was so expensive. Like how having them in person, we had, you know, in the actual boardroom. We had the boardroom, you know, like a. Was back. Not nearly together, I got our
original boardroom. And call them in one by one.
I think that's what we need to do for next month, because I don't know, this is a new speaker thing, and I don't know if you guys have used it yet, but that was a nightmare. We always had, we never had to sit down with a nightmare.
Yeah, I've yet to been on, yeah, it's.
We've never had the issue in this
I
room.
didn't even know that was there when I set this room up.
I didn't either.
Nobody told us it was changed.
I didn't know. I don't know, you know what, there's some kind of camera right here.
This little.
This is our only speakers.
There used to be a camera up top on top of the monitor.
So these aren't.
And now
working.
there's a camera down there and there's two tiny little speakers
Yeah.
and that's when sound was coming.
And that's the only reason they could hear me, was because I'm sitting right here and
We
these two
couldn't-
speakers.
I have no idea.
But there on a board meeting. I wasn't here at board meeting. I have no idea.
There's another article on that.
So that was shut down. And our meeting is still being recorded. So.
Hey, Amy? You know, by the way, on this topic, I thought the material that you gave, but it also kindled in my mind that we're always looking for topics for our training points. Great topic, because it's nice to see the list come in through and it goes out the back, and I wouldn't personally mind having at one of our training classes go through that thing in detail. Referral, but not to refer, consequences of referral.
That's a big topic.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a very big topic.
There is.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I always that the problem with guidance is bylaws. You know what I mean? That really guides.
That was something with the line, you go do it.
I don't know, that's I mean, I think that was something.
Are you sure we don't have any, but we're already waiting for 100 years?
You know, I know that I talked with our counselor, years ago, and he couldn't find my last it. So I had asked something else came up.
No. Something.
I mean, by law, people by meeting, what the other boards decide when they have their meeting.
Let's get it over out here.
There's a question came up and wanted to help hold a special meeting for the asphalt plant project to allow the public to speak and stuff like that, but one, it's not really our same token, wanted to see where in our bylaws allow for board is never, and I never held a special meeting, to my knowledge.
Special meetings?
Like have a meeting like first of the month or something like that. Handle us once.
We've had meetings where we've had many public sessions.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's an open meeting, and that's it. Do we want to close? So.
When will we be able to talk to people in person, or are we gonna?
Well, and that's what, I wanted to bring that up to the board. I don't know what the comfort level is, but my recommendation is let's next month do what Andrew, what they're doing with the IDA meeting and bring one
Can I
person.
take a poll? How many of you have had your shots?
Yes, I did one.
Okay, well, it was volunteer information. So since we've all had our shots, and by Wednesday, you no longer have to wear masks.
Yeah, but it's a county, it's run by the county guys, or county.
Well, this isn't a county building, this is an IDA building,
Yeah, the county lets you out.
but we have county employees
What
in
do you
here.
say? Yeah.
Well, the IDA,
goes to work?
no, the IDA does, but for their meetings, the last couple of meetings, they're having them in person. So the board is.
I think we only have one meeting.
But you're
Well,
allowing
we
applicants.
think it's mitigate the rest of the house. We have it at this. Then we bring one project at a time. And that's why now we have 2 hours. And if we have a meeting in the boardroom, a lot of projects is overflow space.
Well, the reason why they're here. is
Oh,
the screens.
Well, we have the screens there too.
Now
Yeah.
We feel that now having the meetings public, but we're limited number of people in the auditorium. So you know, with the spacing that's currently required, it's 25 people, but it's by reservation.
Yes.
Come first served.
We would have to. Logistically, we would just have to, make it so that, like, do what the idea does, allow one person at a time. So like, we're doing 67-20 instead of 7-20. And then, I think we need to do that. I don't know what's going on with that thing, but this was. I was already
I should almost next to it, we're hearing it, and I couldn't hear it.
Well, yeah, I mean, they can only hear me, I think.
Yeah.
Those seniors right there.
Well, look, I can have. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Billy? Second. Before we go, I want to thank you all for the presentation.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
This, those tiny little speakers right there are all we, it's what we were hearing through.
So why didn't we unhook it? It's just hooked in. Why can't you unhook it?